On today's show, Damian Lillard left Portland with a bad taste in his mouth. The new details show that Joe Cronin mishandled his franchise player. And where will Jrue Holiday play next? All of that and more on today's Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. I'm Wes Goldberg here with Adam Mares. However you might be tuning in on YouTube, Odyssey, or on your favorite podcast app, thanks so much for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. We'll take stock of the championship favorites and decide who the new most loyal player in the NBA is later on in the show. But let's start today with the latest on Damian Lillard. In a story for Bleacher Report, Chris Haynes detailed the messy divorce between Damian Lillard and the Portland Trail Blazers, with Lillard telling Haynes, quote, "How this summer played out behind the scenes definitely left a sour taste in my mouth," end quote. Haynes goes on to detail how Blazers GM Joe Cronin allowed emotions to get in the way of business, refused to negotiate with the Miami Heat at all, Lillard's preferred destination. Then Cronin stopped communicating with Lillard for 3 weeks. And when they did finally speak, Cronin expressed that he wouldn't be trading him to Miami, nor would he allow Lillard to return to Portland. At one point, even the NBA league office had to get involved. There's a lot more details in this story, which obviously does come from Damian Lillard's point of view. But given the latest details, Adam, do you think that Joe Cronin mishandled trading the franchise player?
Well, I think you can give just a little bit more detail about what all was involved in this sit down, because the sit down part of it to me is the craziest detail, that they had to be sort of counseled into like, hey, we need to, for the health of the league, we need you guys to kind of get through this.
Yeah, I was wondering during this whole process if the NBA were going to get involved, because this had obviously not just become a sore spot for Portland and a sore spot for Damian Lillard and maybe, you know, if you're a Miami Heat fan and all the toxic conversation that went around it, but it was a blight on the NBA in general with all the star trades and these things and the fact that he only had the one destination and that it was being held up. And it just, the entire conversation around it wasn't positive. It had nothing to do with the game. It kind of had it had everything to do with like entitlement and things like that. Like, this isn't stuff that the NBA wants around its sport. And so I guess it is a huge detail and it's a big development. I guess I'm not really surprised that it happened, because it felt like it always should have probably happened, and it did happen. We just didn't know about it until now. But yeah, I mean, Cronin and the Blazers front office not speaking with Damian Lillard or his representation and his agent Aaron Goodwin for 3 weeks because there were trust issues, right? Like, the Blazers front office thought that if they communicated with Lillard and Goodwin, that Lillard and Goodwin would turn around and use all that information to try to force their way to Miami. And then Goodwin and Lillard were left in the dark and they had no idea what was going on. So 3 weeks passed by. Joe Cronin visits Damian Lillard in his Portland area home, sits down with him for an hour. And during that sit down, Joe Cronin essentially expressed to Dame that he's not going to trade him to Miami. And at that point, Damian Lillard said, well, if you're not going to trade me to Miami, I don't really want to play anywhere else. Can I just return to Portland? Can I basically just takesy backsies on the trade request? And Joe Cronin essentially was like, no, man, toothpaste is out of the tube. Like, that's done.
Right.
We're not going to let you come back. Damian Lillard shocked at that because he'd been there his entire career and was very loyal and all these things. And so bad blood there. And
well, here's the thing, Wes, if I can interject here.
Please do.
Here's the thing. 5 or 6 years ago, Adam Silver made the comment that it seems that nobody in our league is happy. All the athletes seem unhappy, and I don't know why. Since then, there's been a global pandemic, and life seems to have become significantly more stressful. And these players, there just seems to be no happiness. Here's what I really think. Dame was the loyalty, player in the NBA. He talked about it openly, all these different things. When he finally said, I want to go somewhere, yes, he said, I want it to be Miami. But let's be honest. It was in the interest of Portland to get rid of Damian Lillard. They were not going to win a championship this year, and he's already old. It's like, you know what? Let's get some assets or whatever for him and rebuild. It was good for the Blazers to do it. It was good for Damian Lillard to move on from Portland. So we have two sides whose interests align, and yet here we are in the same spot as if the two interests didn't align. Is there such a thing as the happy ending in the NBA these days, Wes? Part of me looks at this situation and says no.
If there ever were to be a happy ending, this would have been it. But this idea that Damian, look, I think there's a little bit of naivety with Dame in this entire situation, because look at these superstar trades that have happened in the past. None of them ever even been like hey, we're cool, right? Like at the end, like every bridge is burned, everything is torched to the ground, and everybody forces their way out, and there's bad feelings all the way around, and you end up getting like these smear campaign pieces after the fact, just like we got with this one.
But you know what, Wes, though? The thing is the smear campaigns started earlier. This is where the explosion. But here's the thing. If I were to, and again, I don't know if anybody's going to know all of the different like varying parts of this, but I think it's pretty obvious that Dame positioned himself to get out of this situation without feeling like he was totally forcing himself to, which he was. And again, I think most people would look at this and say, you know what? He gave Portland a lot. He gave him, a decade of great hoops and everything he had. Like, I think people would have understand, but I think that teams and athletes and general managers and owners and all of these people in the 21st century, in the year 2023, still think that they can control everybody's opinion of them. And I think this is part of it is Dame, to me, it comes off like going through Chris Haynes, a well-known person to kind of get the player's story. Not saying it's a bad reporting. I think it's all true, but it definitely is, hey, this is from Damian Lillard's perspective of the situation. This just feels to me like a desperate attempt to have your cake and eat it too, where it's, we don't want anyone to be mad at us. We don't want to do this or that. Look, man, you want it out. Everybody understands it. It was perfectly fair, and it remains that. But this messiness of it all on both sides to me just screams of, guys, do we not see that this is just how it works now?
It's unfortunate, right? Because I thought Damian Lillard actually really tried to do it the way that he wanted to do it, where he's like, look, I'm loyal. I want to win a championship. Obviously, you guys are going in another direction. And that's fine. Like I thought there was a quote, and I want to say it was to ESPN's Mark Spears, where he said, I would have loved to be there my entire career, but it's not even up to me anymore because, and I'm paraphrasing here, they're rebuilding and I'm 33 years old. So what's the point of me being there anymore? And they're trying to trade me. And so I think he tried to do it all right. In those same interviews, giving him a platform to speak poorly about the Portland Trail Blazers or anything, like make more of a mess of it than just the one destination part of this whole deal. And he didn't. He never did it. He never spoke bad about the Portland Trail Blazers organization. Meanwhile, he wasn't even speaking to Portland Trail Blazers organization.
I will
trying to play the loyalty card and trying to do it right. But meanwhile, Adam, it's like as soon as the trade request was made, what I find interesting about this is that Portland's front office basically said, the hell with those 11 years. We're done. And now we're just going to handle this as strictly business. We don't care about the loyalty. We don't care about where you want to go. We're going to get our best assets. And heck, we're not even going to talk to you about it anymore. And that was it. And the lead up, and you heard all the same stuff, Adam, especially during the NBA finals, where this was becoming a story when you were talking with people is, hey, if and when Damian Lillard does request a trade, Portland is going to be under some obligation to do right by him. How many times did you and I hear that stuff? Like, they're going to have to do right by Dame.
By the way, they
didn't even care about it.
Well, here's the thing, though. What's the end result? This is the craziest part. This does feel like two sides of a couple trying to gaslight each other into breaking up with the other one. Like they both want to break up, but they both want the other one to be the guilty party who did the breaking up. But here's what's crazy. They both wanted the same thing. They both got something that I think is very favorable to both sides. Portland gets a jump start on a good rebuild, and Dame has by far, in my opinion, the single best chance he could have had to win a title going to Milwaukee. It wasn't even on most people's radar, but when you sit there and look at it, you go, yeah, that's actually a perfect fit for both parties, Dame and and Giannis and everybody. So to me, this is what's so crazy about it is both sides wanted the same thing. Both sides got better than expected outcomes for this, and both sides feel completely hurt by the other side. And you said
because the process was ugly. I love the relationship, the breaking up thing. This would be like if you broke up, but only after you didn't speak for 3 weeks, and then you came home and your girlfriend had moved all her stuff out, and you're like, I guess I'm single now. This isn't my new life. I don't know. Like, it's just, I think the process is what obviously hurt Damian Lillard during all this. And I'll go back to it, man. Like, I just don't know the star that gets traded where the process is super clean and friendly and everybody gets along at the end. Because I haven't seen it.
It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. And as we're going to find out in segment 3, it's surprising how little loyalty there is in the NBA. And by loyalty, I just mean how many athletes stick with their team for years and years and years. Inevitably, in the NBA cycle, where everybody kind of knows now how you build and rebuild and what you have to do, it's so hard to keep a window open for 10 or more years. athletes are good for nowadays for 15 years. They have a 15-year career. So if you have a blue chip NBA player, you need to keep a window open for 15 years or so, which is almost impossible, which means at some point it's going to make more sense for both sides to break up. And it just seems like those will inevitably be ugly in some capacity. It shouldn't be. And by the way, I will say one thing, and to Dame here, a slight criticism. You said he didn't say anything bad about Portland. On the way out, he has hinted, and he's also rapped a couple disses on his way out.
Well, then he just did it all. So he was just, it's all there now. He was just saving it. And in the piece, he did say, I still have love for Portland, all these things. It's not against Portland. This was specific against Joe Cronin. And he posted a farewell note to Portland tonight to his social media accounts and thanked basically everybody who's ever walked through the Moda Center except Joe Cronin.
Incredible, though. I will say, though, it is. I don't want to just sit here and pile on Dame. I thought that was an incredibly classy move to take so much time to write such a thoughtful and specific thank you to so many people. So, I mean, he really did a good job on that.
To be clear, I'm on Damian Lillard's side here, but I'm also a little biased in the entire thing because Joe Cronin was not clearly just didn't feel like he wanted to deal with the Miami Heat at all.
By the way,
which is a little bit of malpractice on his part.
Whether or not you think
whether or not you think they could have beaten Milwaukee's offer or not has nothing to do with it. It's just to not even speak to him. Where you literally, it sounds like he spoke to every other team in the league just out of spite. It's a little childish for a general manager to do. I think that's fair to say.
Here's the thing. In today's NBA, I do think it's important for some of these markets, the Portlands, the Denvers, the Oklahoma Cities, the San Antonios, to draw a line in the sand and say we won't be strong-armed. Kawhi only will go to the Lakers. Well, that hurts us. And if the moment teams start to acquiesce to those types of things, the market resets itself. To me, both the Kawhi deal and now the Damian Lillard deal, 2 deals in 5 years where a team said, nah, we're not doing that out of principle. And I just look at it and I go, I hope this helps set future markets so that players have less and less leverage to do those types of things. Maybe that's idealistic, but for me, I tip my hat. And also, is this deal that much worse than Miami? Even if it is, we're talking 10%.
It's worse than the Miami deal because Damian Lillard doesn't end up in Miami. So that's why I think it's worse. Yeah. Are the Bucks the favorites to win the championship? FanDuel thinks so, but I bet Adam and I disagree with FanDuel. That's going to come up next. But first, a word from our sponsor. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by our friends at DoorDash. Do you need fresh groceries for the week but don't have the time to go to the store because maybe you have to do a million podcasts about Damian Lillard? Try grocery delivery from DoorDash. You'll get everything you want delivered when you need it right through your door. You've trusted DoorDash to deliver your restaurant favorites, and now you can get groceries delivered that actually delivers too. With thousands of grocery stores to choose from, you'll find the best in your neighborhood and boost your local economy with each and every order. You'll get exactly what you ordered, or they'll make it right. So sit back and enjoy quality groceries just like you picked them yourself. Want even more? You can save on all of your grocery and restaurant favorites with a $0 delivery fee on eligible orders with a Dash Pass membership. With easy substitutions right in the app and best-in-class customer support, DoorDash delivers groceries exactly how you want it. Get 50% off your first DoorDash order up to a $20 value when you use the code LOCKEDONNBA at checkout. Limited time offer. Terms do apply. That's 50% off up to $20, no minimum subtotal, and 0 delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter the code LOCKEDONNBA. Don't forget, that's code LOCKEDONNBA for 50% off your first order with DoorDash. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Before we switch gears to Jrue Holiday and maybe whatever his next team is going to be, let's talk about championship favorites now. So after the trade, Damian Lillard goes to Milwaukee. Vegas changed their future odds. Now have the Bucks as the clear favorites to win the championship. Here are the odds according to FanDuel, Adam. Milwaukee plus 360. Boston plus 500. Phoenix plus 550. Denver plus 650. And the Lakers have the 5th best odds, but far away at plus 1,200. So they've got pretty much a clear top 4 here. Milwaukee, Boston, Phoenix, Denver. But even within that top 4, Adam, Milwaukee is far and away the favorite. Do you think that the Bucks should be considered the favorites now? Because I still have questions about their defense. Obviously, we haven't seen Dame and Giannis together, but also it's Dame and Giannis together. So it can kind of go either way.
I think those odds will probably shrink. I think there's typically a little bit of an excitement factor, like, oh my God, they just got Dame. Everybody go put money on it right now. And so the odds kind of start there and they snap back. And I expect the same thing to happen. But I still think that probably is right. I will say Phoenix over Denver is a little surprising to me. I mean, we just had a series about that. It's mostly the same teams that went, we'll see if people really think Bradley Beal closes the gap between what turned out to be like a 60-point difference over 6 games. But that's the one that's weird to me. But if you just talk about Milwaukee being the favorite, I think so. Not quite that hard, but that's a really good team. I will say Milwaukee's such a hard team to judge. They win a title 3 years ago. They've had great regular seasons the last 2 years. Great. Going into the playoffs this last year, they just looked like a dominant team that was going to at least contend, and they get blown out in the first round. So a little bit weird there, but I do think that this is going to be a very, very good team.
To get into the nitty-gritty of the odds, I think Denver's way too low. I think Boston's too high, and I think Phoenix is too high. If you're going to have a top 2, I think it should be Milwaukee and Denver, and it should be a lot closer than plus 360 for Milwaukee and plus 650 for Denver. If you're listening to this and you agree with us, maybe now's a really good time to put some money on Denver, because I don't know that they're going to stay at plus 650 for very long. Those might be the best odds you get for quite a while if you feel motivated to put some money on the Nuggets. But look, the Nuggets won the championship. I think Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA, and I don't think it's really even a debate right now. Giannis is incredible. He's probably the second best player in the NBA, but I just think the way that did we already forget? There was no answer for him in the playoffs. The Nuggets went 16-4, right?
Yeah.
In the postseason. Like, they were dominant in the postseason, and they bring their starting 5 back together. I know they lose Bruce Brown, but Christian Brown could take a leap. Like, they've got players there, and who knows? Maybe there's even a move to make if they need to make it during the regular season. Maybe a buyout guy, something like that. Like, I don't know. I'm just not ready to unseat the Denver Nuggets from where they were, given how dominant it is that they looked, because Milwaukee got Damian Lillard. I think I would probably say that Dame and Giannis are the best duo in the NBA right now. But I do think that there's questions around them, right? And so I like having Milwaukee as a second, maybe even a close second, but I think I just, you can't unseat the Nuggets like that. Not like that.
Think, look, there are questions around Milwaukee that I think will start to be asked in the coming days. We're in the celebration. We're in the honeymoon phase.
Sure.
One of those is they have a rookie head coach, Adrian Griffin. Yeah. Brand new, bring him in. Well, is he good? Is he bad? Is he the right fit here? Does he know what he wants to do? I mean, we saw last year when Mazzulla became the coach right before training camp of the Boston Celtics, there's no time to really draw up a new system. It's like, we got to run right into it. Well, the Milwaukee Bucks just changed their entire identity of their team. Is there really already a plan in place? Is it going to take some time? I think those are real questions. And then
on offense, it'll be easy, right? Just Damian Lillard. I mean, it'll be easy to score points right away. I mean, you have the best vertical threat in the NBA, the best rim pressurer in the NBA in Giannis, and then the scariest deep threat outside the Bay Area in Dame. You're just like, all right, run that pick and roll. And if that doesn't work, invert the pick and roll, and then that terrorizes everybody. So you could just do that. Defensively, I think is where you were going to get to, though. That's where there's real questions.
I think they'll be really good defensively, and I think they'll figure it out.
They've got Giannis and Brook on the back line.
But we think about continuity with teams, like a lot of the guys with Milwaukee have been there for a while, player-wise, so you think, okay, there'll be continuity. But the difference between Jrue and Damian Lillard defensively is very different. So different that I think it probably impacts even your scheme. I think Milwaukee will probably be less effective with their current schemes. You need somebody that fights through screens and challenges pick-and-roll ball handlers the way Jrue is probably the best in the NBA or one of the best in the NBA at doing, and Damian Lillard's one of the worst in the NBA at doing. So that's going to take a little bit of an adjustment. And does that one change mitigate Brook Lopez's impact at least a little bit, or maybe even a lot of bit? Those are some of the questions I have. So I think defensively, there is going to have to be a complete reconfiguration. I shouldn't say complete, a pretty lengthy reconfiguration and re-identity for that team. And, offense will probably come naturally, but defense, they'll have to figure that out.
Giannis last season played 41% of his minutes at center. That was a career high, according to Basketball Reference. I think we could see a new career high being set because everything you said, like this might be a team that just has to get up and down, switch everything, which Brook Lopez is not going to do. And maybe that makes Giannis a center at end of games and end of halves. That could be something that we see a little bit more of if they do have to sort of revamp the entire scheme defensively. But let's switch gears now to Jrue Holiday.
Be crazy, real quick, real be crazy.
Yeah.
maybe I wouldn't. I might try that one out a little bit, and if it works really well, that might be a back pocket thing that I don't want to give anybody a scout on. I know that sounds crazy, but
like the
Nuggets did it this year with Aaron Gordon. He did not play backup center really at any stretch this entire season. You get to the playoffs, and immediately he's Denver's backup center, and it worked. Sometimes you can get away with it when you go, yeah, we know this works. We don't really need to refine it. It's natural.
Let's talk Jrue Holiday, though, who's now on the trade block. He's with the Portland Trail Blazers, probably won't ever play for them. Teams like the Clippers, the Celtics, the Sixers have been rumored to be landing spots for him, as well as other contenders. What teams do you like for a Holiday? Let's have fun here. Like, it could be those teams, it could be any other team. Let's have fun. Good fit.
I've got four for you, and I'm going to go in order.
I also have four. I wonder if any of them are the same.
They're probably the exact four by order of what I think is the most fun. And the first one, Wes. Okay.
This is the most fun, or we're counting to the most
fun.
Okay,
most fun.
I'll be
the
shocked.
Miami Heat. Are you kidding me?
No.
This is the absolute best outcome from this whole scenario. First of all, let me say something, Wes. I kind of like that fit better than Damian Lillard. Is there a better sort of FU? Like, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. If Cronin really is upset about this whole breakup, don't you call him up and just say, hey, man, I know you're mad at us, but you're really mad at Dame for trying to force him to us. How about you get Dame back with the one guy who completely locks him up, and we meet in the playoffs? You'll be on the sidelines watching us as we X them out of championship.
Everybody's, what a great consolation prize. Everybody keeps saying that in terms of the Heat. And I'm just like, I don't want consolation prizes. I want a Damian Lillard here.
I don't think it's Again, it's all fits. I kind of feel like Jrue Holiday fits.
Here's my problem with the Jrue Holiday thing. He does. He fits the whole Heat culture. And I love Jrue Holiday. He's been one of my favorite players in the league for 5 or 6 years now. But and defensively, you put him, Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo together, teams might score 20 points on the Heat, like all game. Like, it's just, that's crazy. But Miami's problem wasn't defense; it was offense, and it was specifically offense in the half court, which was the same problem that the Bucks had with Jrue Holiday as their point guard last year. And he was, as great as Jrue Holiday is, an All NBA player, he was part of the problem in terms of their half court offense.
Sure.
So and especially on a team where you're going to have to give the ball to Jimmy Butler and he's going to do his isolation post-up bully stuff, or Bam Adebayo is going to need the ball a lot. Like, Jrue Holiday is just going to end up kind of posting up as a shooter in a lot of possessions. I don't know.
Want to watch this because it's ugly.
The Heat basketball is ugly. It's always been ugly. And what was exciting about Damian Lillard, it wasn't good. It was just going to be easy points for once.
Yeah.
Like the first time since the Big Three era for Miami. But
I go for it, man. If I'm you, I just lean into it.
What is it? What's the deal? Is it Kyle Lowry and a first-round pick?
That's what they want, picks, man. They just want picks. I mean, that's you get to Tyler Hero gets to shoot like 27 shots a game. You got to get the scoring somewhere.
If it's Kyle Lowry's expiring and a first-round pick, at least I would at least explore it. You probably have to throw in some additional salary from.
I think you're crazy. This team would be horrible to watch. They'd be an eyesore, but I'm telling you, nobody would want to play.
I get to cover them all season.
You get to cover them all season. My number 2 team.
Okay.
This one's off the radar. I don't think you'll have it. Minnesota Timberwolves.
I don't have them. But
every week we do this, Wes. Every time we do fake trades on this show, I'm always trading Karl Anthony Towns. I'm just trying to find someone to take him. I don't think that's going to be Portland since they just got Ayton. So you got to find a 3-way.
Okay.
But I'm just looking more at the Timberwolves team. If you pair Anthony Edwards and Jrue Holiday and Jaden McDaniels, who's an elite defender, and Rudy Gobert, who's a great defender, that's a hell of a defensive team with just enough offensive firepower and stuff around there that I love it. To me, give me that team.
You flip Mike Conley and some other stuff, and then you get them, maybe, is the deal. Rudy Gobert recently saying that their entire strategy this year, and of course Rudy Gobert is going to say this, but it starts with defense, and then we go from there. Jrue Holiday would do a lot for that defense, no doubt about it.
It might be number 1. Jaden McDaniels, Jrue Holiday, and Rudy Gobert, that might be the number 1 defense in the NBA.
Unfortunately, Karl Anthony Towns is still on the roster. If you keep Karl Anthony Towns, you probably wouldn't be.
I think you have to trade him to get the first, because Portland wants first, and we know that Utah has every first possible for Minnesota. So you got to trade Towns, get a couple first.
So we don't have any of the same teams right now. You got Miami and Minnesota. I don't have them on my
last 2 are just pure narrative. Number 1, I love a good reunion. Philadelphia 76ers.
That's cool.
The Jrue Holiday trade, Wes, started the process.
Correct.
That was the start of the process. The process is on life support. This might be a full circle, closed loop.
Jrue Holiday made an all-star game, and they traded him like months later. Yeah, and everybody, it was shocking at the time.
Bring him back close the loop on the process and maybe finish it once and for all.
James
Does it
Harden
work?
goes out.
James Harden goes out. Does it work? I don't know, but just narrative-wise, it's kind of cool. So that's why I like it.
I'm into it. And what's the other one?
And then the last one, Pelicans, same thing. His other team. I like a reunion. You send it to the Pelicans. What do they got going on?
You old softy. There it is. It would be in New Jersey, though. He never played in did he ever play in the Pelicans jersey? Were they ever the Pelicans when Jrue Holiday was there? Or was he already gone by then?
I think he was a Pelican.
I think he was a Pelican for maybe 1 year. He might have been a Pelican. Basketball Reference has a little jersey things up there. My 4 teams. I like my 4 teams better. I'm not going to give you the most fun one yet. I'll give you the other 3 first.
Tease it, yeah.
The Clippers.
Oh, come on.
Sort of. They're just out. I think it's a good.
Lakers are going to be on this list too. Let's just give it all the teams that always
Nope.
pick up everyone they can.
The Clippers are interesting. I don't wish that on Jrue Holiday because he actually wants to play with his teammates and the Clippers,
Right.
the LA Clippers. Those players.
He is an LA guy. Another reunion. I'll go with it.
All right. Here's a couple of off the radar ones, but I think it could work. What about Dallas? They need defense in a bad way. You could technically play Kyrie, Jrue, and Luka together because Luka has some size.
Of course.
And Jrue Holiday plays way bigger than his size. I don't really know how they could do it. Portland would have to really like Josh Green because I think Dallas only has like 1 future first rounder that they can trade. So it would have to, and then they'd have to put in some like salaries that aren't awesome, like the Tim Hardaway and the Rashawn Holmes deals. They have 2 more years left on their contract, so they're not even expiring. But like if Portland really likes Josh Green and Dallas is 2027 first, if they're just willing to short the Mavericks,
that feels
then,
rough.
Then maybe that's something. If I'm Dallas, I'll at least make that phone call. Chicago.
Okay.
Here's my case for Chicago. They have Portland's pick. It's like protected from 2024 to like 2054 or something. It's crazy.
Okay, yeah. 30 years of protection.
Yeah.
Or no, you're saying the numbers wise.
Give it back to Portland.
Okay.
Right? That's the only pick. Hey, man, you don't have to worry about this anymore. Take your pick back. We don't even want it anymore. It's all lottery protected. We're not even going to see this forever. So just take it back. You don't even have to worry about it anymore. And by the way, that unlocks all the other picks that you want to trade if you ever go down that road.
Okay.
Patrick Williams, nice young player.
Could be good. Could be.
Power forward. You know, it's like, okay, now we got I think he's still only like 22 years old, Patrick Williams. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Take a flyer on him. And then to make the salaries work, take Lonzo Ball. Okay. Most teams won't take Lonzo Ball, but Portland doesn't care because Portland already knows they're going to not be any good, and they can survive 2 years of the Lonzo Ball contract. Maybe Chicago has to throw in another first-round pick. That's fine. You get Jrue Holiday. I love it for Chicago.
Levine, Jrue, Caruso, DeRozan, and Vucevic. So you really would have 2 of the best perimeter defenders in all the NBA between Caruso and Jrue Holiday. You'd have Zach LaVine. You know what?
And the worst one was Zach LaVine.
The worst one was Zach LaVine. So, there you go.
Yeah, I like it for Chicago. Here's my most fun one, Adam.
All right.
The Oklahoma City Thunder.
What are we doing?
We're doing what the Oklahoma City Thunder need to do.
Oh, wow.
Which is eventually, hey, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is that dude right now.
Yeah,
go get him. Like, let's go. What are we waiting for? Go make the championship push. Or not championship. Go make the playoff push.
Well, there, you just said it. You said the part that holds this down is what does it do? And I don't know if you saw Sam Presti's media availability yesterday. He started off by taking a very long and uncomfortable drink of water. And then he proceeded to explain just a little detail if anybody wants to go look at the video. Very
what was uncomfortable about it?
It's just a weird way to drink water in public. I don't know how to explain it other than you need to go look at the video. It's very, very uncomfortable.
Did he pour it down his shirt?
Like, he swishes it around. I mean, he drank the way I like wash my mouth, like with like mouthwash.
And did you make did the mouth noise hit the microphone?
And it's like just in front of a whole podium of people. You know, you're like, what are you doing, man? Come on, just drink it. Anyway, sorry, that was too long on that. Anyway, he explained that he said to make a trade right now to try to win would be like picking out the paint out of a house that you haven't seen or built yet. So he views this as more of a, we don't know.
What if you know you like eggshell, though? Like, what if you know you already like eggshell? Like, you already know you like Jrue Holiday. He fits everywhere. No, here's my problem with Sam Presti. We all agree he's a great GM, blah, blah, blah. He trades good players for picks, and all of that's hypothetical, and therefore you're a great general manager now.
That's true.
So go get a good player and actually go win some games. Like, that's my thing. Jrue Holiday is a perfect fit. You know how great Lou Dort is for this team? What if you had Lou Dort as a Super Saiyan? That's Jrue Holiday. Go grab that guy.
Here's the
trade
thing.
Davis Bertans, Lou Dort, and one of those millions of picks that you have that you're not going to be able to use anyway.
So wait, who's Lou Dort's best friend?
I don't know.
It's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So you want to trade your cornerstone pieces, countryman, and best friend for what I would consider to be an upgrade, but of the same mold of player. Meanwhile, you still have Giddey. You still got Jalen Williams. You just brought over Vasa Micic, EuroLeague MVP. You're going to have 6 point guards on your roster. I just don't know if I think I disagree with this one quite a bit. Also,
I think it makes them better.
You might only have them for 1 year. I don't know. I'm on
I'm just sick of the, oh no, we don't have the house. You have the house. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the house. You have the house. Go fill the house with furniture and curb appeal and live in the house. It's time in Oklahoma City. Start making moves. I hate this hypothetical future thing, and we all give Sam Presti all this credit. He hasn't built a winning team yet.
You know what?
Go do it.
I'm going to drink in your opinion. I'm going to swish it around for a little bit. I might gurgle it a little bit here at the podium, and then sorry, I got to spit it out.
Now that Damian Lillard has been traded, who is the newest, most loyal player in the NBA? We're getting to that next. Welcome back to Locked On NBA. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. You can subscribe on YouTube. You can follow us on your favorite podcast app. We do appreciate it. It's Friday, which means it's time to count down to the weekend. What do you have for us today, Adam?
Well, Dame was one of the most loyal people in the NBA. I don't know if you ever heard him talk about it, Wes, but very loyal, very loyal.
Loyalty, right?
But sadly, that loyalty did have limits, and he's now gone. And he is out of my own countdown, top 5 most loyal players in the NBA. He's no longer one of the most loyal.
In other words, the mantle is open. Somebody else has to fill it.
I have a couple honorable mentions here.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Miles Turner. This was your suggestion here. By virtue of the fact that he just has been in Indiana for a while, so I'm just going to give it to him. Yeah, not really. He has kind of talked a lot about playing with other people in other cities. So
he did have the whole thing about maybe I'll go play with the Lakers, but then he signed the extension. So I don't know. He's an honorable mention. I think is fine, but it's funny that we start with somebody like Miles Turner, who's on the trade block for basically his entire career. But it speaks to the point that I think, like the meta point that you're trying to make here, which is loyalty is dead. But
there's not a lot of loyalty. If our honorable mentions start with Miles Turner, that just shows you. Karl Anthony Towns, I'm gonna put him there. He's been there for a while. He's changing the game.
Nice guy.
And then you have Draymond Green, who's obviously been with this Warriors team for over a decade. He's won a lot of championships. But why is he honorable mention? I mean, he did punch a teammate, Wes. I remember that. He did punch one of his own teammates. He also has, threatened Kerr and talked about leaving and, basically courted LeBron and for a while. I couldn't put him in good conscience in my top 5.
He's loyal, and then he gets on his podcast and says how he really feels. You know what I mean? And so honorable mention is fair, though. He does sign with the Warriors, and he's been there the entire time. Yeah.
Number 5 most loyal player in the NBA currently, Joel Embiid.
Wow.
The guy who started the process. Still there for the process, holding on. He's been there. He's like the 3rd most tenured player in the entire NBA right now, so you would think he could even be higher, but he has thrown a lot of coaches and teammates under the bus. He has talked about potentially leaving Philly.
If not for that interview that he did this summer, he would be higher. I think so.
I think he'd be 4 if it weren't for that. That dropped him down.
Because he's dealt with a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
like a lot of coaches, a lot of changes, a lot of teammates, all these things, and he's still been there. And he has been very loyal to the fan base and this whole thing. He is the process, to your point. Yeah. If not for the interview, he should have been higher, but he gave the interview and now he's lower. So that's what happens.
My next most loyal player, number 4, Devin Booker. He has really embraced Phoenix life. He's really embraced Phoenix. He's been there for 8 years. This will be his 9th season.
Most of which when the Phoenix Suns were bad.
They were bad for a long time, and he stuck with them. He knew that, one day you take they could really have a glow up, and they have. He got all these guys to come to him. Mm-hmm. So I think I would consider him pretty loyal.
I'm with you on Bradley Beal, his new teammate. Bradley Beal also leaving Washington, and he was another loyal guy before. But yeah,
All right.
No, Booker's good.
If I were being honest, though, those two guys are distant down the list. I think there are actually only 3 loyal players in all of the NBA right now. Truly loyal guys. Number 3.
We're not going to include Udonis Haslem, are we? Because he's retired.
He's retired. He would have been there. He was
the
so
most
loyal.
Well, we just had a loyal, everybody that was loyal left. Damian Lillard's on a new team. Bradley Beal's on a new team. Udonis Haslem retired. Like, all the loyalty is gone.
We've had a couple. We've lost a couple in the last year or two for sure. Giannis Antetokounmpo, number 3. Number 3. Now, he's been with his team for what, 10 years now? Yep. He did just recruit a major piece. He won a championship for his team. All these things are super loyal, but he has done that thing where he every now and then threatens to leave to try to get a little bit more out of his partner. That's not a full loyalty move, even if it's not the worst offense.
It's a little abusive, right? If we go back to the relationship thing, it's a little bit like gaslighting. It's like, hey, if you don't do this, I'm going to. If you don't propose to me tomorrow, I'm leaving you.
Yep, totally.
It's a little bit like that, but he never left. He stayed.
They did stay, and he just got Damian Lillard to come on over. You saw, by the way, All-Star game this year. Who was his first pick?
Damian Lillard. I'm usually, honestly, like, people are like, oh, what does that mean? I'm like, you guys are reading into this way too much.
No way.
Like them. I was like, no, I'm fully, every time anybody picks anything for anybody, anytime a player picks another player to come on the podcast, I'm going to say, what are they really doing here? Like, all of this stuff is happening.
You got to connect the dots, man. The All-Star draft, honest to God, you could tell the history of the NBA over the last 4 years just from the All-Star game draft. Everything you need to know is revealed in those drafts. Number 2 most loyal player in the NBA. For once, my guy's not number 1. He's number 2. Nikola Jokic, the number 2 most loyal player in all of the NBA. Just won Denver a championship. He's been there now for 8 seasons, going on 9. He's been there a really long time. And he's never even once hinted about leaving Denver. He's never even once looked at another team in the wrong way. He ties his wedding ring into his shoelaces for his game so he doesn't lose it. He treats the Nuggets the exact same way. That man has loyalty in his DNA, the most loyal man on earth.
The wedding ring thing is a little bit of a reach. And he does leave Denver. He leaves Denver as soon as he can every summer to go back to Serbia. He leaves Denver every year.
People need their space, Wes. People need their space, man. You know this in a relationship. Sometimes you got to,
I love that the relationship thing is just the metaphor throughout the entire show. It's just like a common thread. Who's number 1?
You know who number 1 is. The most loyal player in the NBA, Steph Curry, the guy whose career of this era has been the most storybook. Drafted in the Bay, brought 4 championships to the Bay, brought some iconic moments to the Bay. He's still in the Bay. He doesn't flirt with leaving. He doesn't talk about, oh, I wish I could go over here and play with that guy or this or that. He just keeps winning and winning and winning for his same fan base. Steph Curry is Mr. Loyalty in the NBA. He gets number 1.
There was some talk for a while, and this was not generated by him, so I agree with everything you just said, but there was some talk on the outside for a while, like, oh, it wouldn't shock me if Steph ended his career in Charlotte, his hometown. I don't buy that. I don't buy. So first of all, the hometown thing was only ever a LeBron thing. It's never been a thing for anybody else other than LeBron and people who come from LA. Those are the only things where the hometown is ever a factor. Kevin Durant didn't go play for the Wizards because he was from the Washington, D.C. area. It never, like, the hometown thing never, ever is a factor. And people are like, yeah. And then Steph is going to leave maybe the most successful organization in the league over the last decade for the Charlotte Hornets. Like, why would he ever do that? It's insane. He can go home whenever he wants. He's a bajillionaire. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. That would seem like a little bit of a reach. It would feel weird too. Steph Curry he's been with the Warriors through so many years and so many highs that to see him in a different jersey would be like, it really would be like Jordan in the Wizards or Keem in the Raptors. Like, it would just be one of those things where you'd be like, what? That's not right.
It's so strange. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, his dad does the analyst for the broadcast. Like, who cares? His dad, he can call him whenever he wants.
It's true. It's true.
All right. I think that's good. That was a good top 5.
Let us know who's your most loyal. Who is your top 5?
I wish we would have done this last year because Udonis Haslem would have been number 1.
Yeah, well, Dame might have been number 1. I think Dame might have won that number 1. It breaks everybody's heart, man.
Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Everydayers, make sure that you're subscribed on YouTube, Odyssey, and wherever it is that you get your podcast. The show is
Everydayers
back
so loyal
on
to us,
Monday.
baby.
Loyal. And number one are the everydayers. That's right. We'll be back on Monday with the biggest stories from the NBA weekend. Until next Friday, you can find me over at Locked On Heat. Adam is over on Locked On Nuggets. Media days are next week. We're gonna have a ton of content across the network for you from there. Until then, have a great weekend. Have a great weekend, Adam.
Two.